It's the greatest podcast in the history of the world.
It goes high up and under the full foot. Mackey's taken a ripper!
He has a bounce, he crosses 50, he pins the ears back, and he drills the goal!
All the latest news and views from around the VAFA.
Here's the big man!
Big goal.
He's done it again! This bloke extracts some of the finest from outside the arc. It's a long bomb from outside the arc!
This is for the love of the game.
You can tweet that and hashtag it bloody good.
This is for the love of the game. Welcome along. Another massive weekend of football right up and down across the VAFA. We've had some draws. We've had some big bags. We've got Ton Watch to take care of. We've got Hugo Higginbotham back in the seat. Welcome back.
Again, thanks, Jace. Great to be here. And it was a cold shot of reality coming back to Melbourne through the doors of Tullamarine. Saw a few VAFA players exiting too, unfortunately. But it's great to be back.
Matty, you were down at Fortress Brighton on the weekend with Hugo. We'll get to that shortly, but the twists and turns keep happening in Premier Men's.
No, never a dull moment in Premier Men's. It was another great weekend of footy. Some really big results now. The run home has begun. 1 down, 6 to go. And tell you what, if what we had on the weekend is a taste of things to come, it's going to be a ripping run to September.
It was a thrilling afternoon in William Buck Premier Men's. A couple of one-kick thrillers, a couple of huge statement wins. Uni Blues declared their premiership contention in no uncertain terms. They snapped the 9-game winning streak of Old Xaverians at Toorak Park. And joining us to chat through that first versus second blockbuster is Blues coach Matty Smith. Matty, thanks for your time.
No problem. Thanks for having me on.
Well, mate, you arrived in enemy territory hunting a 7th straight win of your own, and you started pretty well. First 3 goals of the game.
Yeah, we've made a habit of that over the last sort of month or so. We've been starting really well and getting out of the blocks and just getting ourselves into good positions early.
What did you make of it early on? You had 5-1 from 12 inside 50s in that first term, so you're obviously pretty efficient. You led by 9 points at the first change. Was the game sort of panning out and playing out early on the way you were hoping it would?
Yeah, I guess so. We couldn't be disappointed with where we were at. Initially our focus was on at the contest and making sure that we were breaking up their handball chains because we know that they're pretty clean and slick coming out of stoppage, and if you let them run the way they want, they're pretty hard to stop. So we felt like we were able to disrupt that, and then we were really quick at getting that ball forward, knowing that we were probably going to stretch them down back a little bit with our height. So it panned out really well.
The second term proved to be decisive. You took control on the scoreboard, and it was largely through your intercept game. It allowed you to continually turn Zabs back. They struggled to sort of link up and hit targets by foot, which is generally one of their strengths. And your ability to force turnovers, 10 intercept marks to 4 for the quarter, and then counter-attack was really telling. It prevented them from taking a single mark inside 50, which again is one of their great strengths. You took 5 yourself and kicked 4 from marks in that second quarter. It was a really impressive term of footy.
Yeah, it was. And again, it was just off the learnings from the first quarter. I think we did everything that we wanted to in the first quarter, but we were probably just a little bit slow, even though it was quick still in the first quarter and going forward. There was opportunities where we could have gone forward and stretched them quicker than what we did, and we just tried to force an extra handball or an extra kick, and we just straightened up a little bit, and we went forward a lot quicker, and our forwards were just dangerous across the board. So we had plenty of representation. Obviously, we got the 2 bigs that are always down there, but then we had Mo popping up and Lordy and those and Towner, obviously, that we just had to stretch them and just give them more opportunity.
Matt, congratulations on the win. A terrific performance from you and your boys. And I was reflecting back on the performance against that you had against Old Zavs earlier in the season. Was there much you took away from that game that you wanted to apply heading into this one?
Yeah, again, it was just the pressure. I think the first half of the first time we played them was where we wanted to be at, and we were able to pressure them and force them into making mistakes and those errors by skill. And then we just dropped off in the second half. And once you give them a sniff, they just run really hard and it's hard to get them stopped. So for us, it was just maintaining that for 4 quarters. We knew the plan was in place to execute. We just had to be able to do it for 4 quarters.
It was 6 goals at half time, 34 points at half time, 6 goals at 3/4 time, 39 in the end, Hugo. So it was that second quarter that proved the difference. And some of these key numbers, you've seen a lot of Zabs this year. Tell the story. Old Zabs held to 335 touches by the Blues. Their average is normally 379, and they lead the competition, so that's huge. -13 contested possession differential, -4 ground balls. The first time since round 5 they've lost those stat categories down in the scrap, and that was also to the Blues, incidentally. And the first time that the Zabs have lost gathers all year, so when the ball kind of spills out into space, it was the Blues that were first to move. Contested mark, intercept mark, score efficiency differentials, also season lows, as well as the efficiency entering forward 50. It was a really comprehensive shutdown performance from the Blues.
Well, you can only play as well as the opposition lets you sometimes, and those numbers are indicative of that. But, Matty, I want to talk about one guy, Trent Cossa. We saw a couple of games of him last year. He's got real X factor, and you brought him in to go up against one of the best ruckmen in the competition in Alex Pralia, and he's performed really well.
Yeah, he did. He's come off a good block of twos footy. He had surgery on both his knees through the pre-season, so he had a bit of time off, and then he's put together a good block of form. So we're confident in him coming in that, and obviously just being able to, when you got Joe Furphy as your primary ruckman, it's nice to have Trent coming in as your secondary. But his ruck work was really good, and he's able to generate full ball movement with us. We don't sort of fluff around with it too much and expecting it at perfect taps. It's just working on him with his follow-up work and becoming an extra mid. But I think for us, what was most important was him actually getting across half back, and he took probably 4 or 5 intercept marks himself across in that back line. I think that was more important to us than what he was with his ruck work inside.
5 games clear now inside the top 4 with 6 to play. So finals on the horizon for you guys, which is a great performance after sort of being there and thereabouts last year and then just not getting over the line in a few of the close ones. So where have you improved from this time last year, Matty, and what are you focusing on now over the next 6 weeks between now and September?
I think the biggest improvement, honestly, is our fitness at the moment. And we had a pretty young core group of players last year that were in that sort of 20 to 22 mark. So the maturity coming off a really solid preseason, both physically and just mentally, and understanding a game plan that we haven't really changed too much from last year, has really driven, I think, the improvement for us this year. But I guess for the next 6 weeks, we obviously got to focus on this week. It's shown that everyone's beating everyone at the moment. Like we got Haileybury this weekend, who are just always a sniff. So we just have to make sure that we reset. As I've said before, it's hard sometimes backing off the back of these games that we've just played because there's such a big build-up and you set yourself for a top-of-the-table clash. But we just have to reset now and still take it 1 week at a time. But I guess the ladder, the draw is set it up now that we've got a couple of weeks and then we're into Brighton and then a couple more weeks into Scobs to finish off the season. So we can sort of deload a little bit where we need to and look after ourselves, thinking ahead and playing the long game a little bit more now as well.
Matt, the player I want to talk about is Jack Hayter, who we saw here in the Big V a couple of weeks ago representing his state, and how impressive he was for you guys in terms of setting the standard through the midfield against Old Xavs. What's his ceiling? Because he just seems to get better every single week. He was outstanding again on the weekend.
Yeah, he's been excellent for us. And I think the question for us at the start of the year was, being an 18-year-old coming up and playing senior footy for the first time, was would he maintain the level and would his body hold up as well? But he's the ultimate professional with his preparation. Well, what his ceiling is, who knows? At the first part of the year this year was trying to get rid of the habits that some of these kids come out of coach league with, where it's a little bit more flashy and the over the shoulder handballs and all that sort of stuff, and stamping that out of his game. But every week he gets a lot better with that. His ball security is improving. So I think the sky's the limit for him at the moment. His work rate, and he's willing to learn. He's willing to listen. So he's an exciting prospect. And as I said, being 18 years old, he's got a big future ahead of him.
And some breaking news here on For the Love of the Game. This week's VAFA Rising Star nomination, congratulations, Matty Smith, is Jack Hayter.
well deserved, certainly off the back of the last couple of weeks, but his form all through. So it's an excellent story for him, and it's a credit to him as well. So that's a huge wrap for him. And obviously coming up, we had Tommy Hill early in the year. We've got a great bunch of young players coming through at the moment, so it's exciting for the club moving forward too.
I think it might be the first club in the men's competition that have had 2 Rising Star nominees this year, so that is a real feather in your cap. Hey, best of luck for the road ahead. You mentioned Old Haileybury this week, then it's Old Scotch, Old Brighton, St Bernard's, Caulfield and St Kevin's. As we keep saying every week, there's no easy games in Premier Men's.
No, there's not, and it shows that, and that's the beauty of the VAFA. It's everywhere you got to turn up, and if you're slightly off, you can be beaten by anyone. So it's exciting. It's an exciting road ahead for us at the moment, but we've got a fair job to do still.
Matty, thanks for your time. Best of luck for the road ahead.
No problem. Thanks for having me, guys.
So a huge win for Uni Blues there, Hugo. What did Dan Donati make about it on the other side of the coin, the Old Xav side?
Look, he said they were outplayed for most of the day by a very good Blues side, which is absolutely correct. And it was tight and quick in the first quarter, but they didn't capitalise on some opportunities, which is always a problem. And at the other end, they were just too easy to score against, he said. So he made a few changes at half time, more of a contest, but they just struggled. So they didn't keep it in their half for long enough, and as a result, so Blues just scored too frequently. But they'll take some valuable lessons out of that, as a good coach will do.
And a chance to reset. They're on a 9-game winning streak. Chance now to reset and go, okay, now we've got a 6-week block between now and September.
Oh, look, they're in a really good position, and they've got a really good look at the Blues there. So you can go back to that tape, and you can break that right apart and say, right, where are the key moments where we fell apart? Where did we break down? And then you can work on that. And they've got 6 or 7 weeks now before they may be playing the Blues.
Yeah, that's going to be tight at the top, as it always is. Speaking of the 2 grand finals from the last couple of years, met and it was Old Scotch continuing its revival by securing their first win over Old Brighton since the 2024 grand final. They snapped a 4-game losing streak to the Tunners. They closed within 2 games of the reigning premiers in the race for 4th spot. The hosts, the Tunners, had the better of the opening term. They controlled possession, 31 uncontested possessions to uncontested marks rather to 17, and prevented the Cards from getting into that uncontested game that we know Old Scotch like to play. It was 2-4 to 1-2. It was Brighton by 8 points at the first change. But then suddenly the script flipped and the Cards got on top around the contest themselves. They then forced the Tunners into error through the middle of the ground. 19 midfield turnovers for Brighton in that second quarter, which is something we don't see from the Tunners often, albeit a very different looking lineup to what we're used to seeing for the Tunners. The result, therefore, was 19 inside 50s to 5. The Cardinals way in that second term. They cashed in. They kicked 6 goals for and led by 32 points at the main break. They actually held Old Brighton scoreless. It was their first scoreless quarter at home since round 17 of 2024. So they expected a third quarter response from the Tunners, and it came. They muscled up on the inside. They got their own intercept game going, kicked the first 2 goals of the term, got within 20 points. But the Cardinals refused to buckle. They kicked 2 of the last 3 goals. They were still 22 points up at the last change. And then Scotch, a couple of steadies early in the last quarter. Debutant Will Verge, Henry Brown opened up a commanding 34-point lead, snuffed out any hopes of a late charge. In the end, the Cards by 35 points, their 4th win in their last 5 starts. You 2 gentlemen were there. How much of it was Cardinals being great? How much of it was Old Brighton being a little off?
Look, there was an element of Old Brighton being undermanned. So you can see just a breakdown in not a 100% clear game plan as they have had. So if you fall down in one area, it's hard to bounce back from that. The back line was under siege, and they just couldn't get it out past halfway. So it was always you were waiting, and Scotch were pouncing on that. But look, in the first quarter, it was just mistake after mistake from both sides, I think, settling. Look, the ground was never been in better condition for this time of year. There was no wind at all. Matty, you were getting sunburned.
Yes.
it was basically, the game was played on its merits, but Brighton had 9 changes coming into this game. Yep. So you've only got what you've got. But I mean, Campbell Tweedy played full forward, played in the ruck. It was he gave his heart for that team that day, but they were just that undermanned in that respect. And Scotch's form is starting to hold up. We're starting to see a little bit of that Scotch formula that they have had. One thing, let's go a bit of history here. This time last year, they were 6-6 with 6 games to go. This year, they're 5-7. So it's going to be harder for them. You would think, because there's still 2 games behind Brighton, you think they'd have to win at least 4 out of the next 6.
Their next 2 weeks are going to be critical. We'll get to that in a moment. Yep. What impressed you most about Scotch?
I just think their pressure, particularly out of the middle in that latter part of the second quarter, because Hugo will remember in the first half of the second term, Old Brighton had the ball in their forward 50 for a good 5-10 minutes. Could not get a score. The ball was locked in there over on the far side of the ground. Couldn't get it away, and then Old Scotch were able to get it inside 50, got a goal, and from there they were totally dominant. They kicked 6 goals in the quarter. There was some great moments from some of their star players, and the exclamation point was Will Clark kicking goal from long range on the halftime siren, and that just about rubber stamped their dominance. And to be fair to Old Scotch, they also made about 5 changes coming into the match, so it's not like they went in with a completely settled lineup. They had a few changes that they had to make as well. But they were just outstanding. Their pressure, their ball movement, they just forced it at every opportunity. And there were some really good players in that forward line. Quinn Spencer had a very good game up forward. Angus Jones is one. I know our former co-host Paddy said away macking is going to take the mark of the millennium one day. If we're ranking them, Angus Jones is a bit of a dark horse. He's going to he's going to hold on to one day. It's going to be an absolutely incredible mark. Charlie Cormack was our player of the game. He was immense down back, just picked off everything. So they were just such a well-balanced team right throughout the afternoon, Old Scotch. And you would not want to face them on the run-in because it feels like they've got things clicking together. They've got it all together now. And that was a huge game for them because if Old Brighton win that one, Old Scotch are 4 games.
Yeah.
Off the top 4 with 6 to go, and it's just about done.
Yep.
Now they're only 2 games away. They're in form, coming home with a wet sail. Who knows? They might be able to do it again, Jace.
They're going to need to be, Hugo, their next 2 weeks, St Kevin's at home, Uni Blues away. So that's going to stress test them even further.
Look, if they win those 2, you'd say they're a very good chance of making finals. If they win 1 out of the 2, there's still a chance. But if they drop both of those, then I would say that's probably the season done there.
If they deserve to make finals, they'll win these 2 games.
Yeah, that's a fair way of putting it. How far are they off their best lineup then, do you think?
Obviously, Tarrant. He improves that forward line a little bit. There'd probably be 3 or 4 players, I would think. But one player we've got to mention too was vice captain Henry Brown.
Yeah,
he was a 4-quarter performer. I mean, Charlie McIsaac, he just racks up intercept marks. Charlie Cormack, sorry. He just racks up intercept marks for fun, and he gets the showcase. But Henry Brown, he's at the bottom of the pack player. You can see why he's a leader there too. So he led really well. They're back to that was a consistent, almost 3.5-quarter performance. I think there's still a little bit of improvement there, but much improved on what we've seen previously.
And they might have found another one in Will Verge.
Yeah,
as a ruckman who was aggressive around the ground, I think it's fair to say. But what he's able to do is he frees up Will Clark, who could spend a bit more time up forward now, and he's as dangerous a target inside 50 as you get in the competition.
So Old Brighton currently sit 2 games now ahead of Old Scotch and Caulfield, but with a hefty percentage, like we're talking 30% ahead of them. So basically 3 games clear. But Old Brighton have got Old Trinity away, then they've got Old Zabs away, then they've got Uni Blues at home and Old Haileybury at home. Gee, this Trinity game this week and the 4 points from that, they're critical. Drop this, they could easily lose to Zabs and Blues the way things are going just on form, and suddenly you're looking at Old Brighton having lost maybe 4 in a row.
Yeah, unheard of. I know there's still a few weeks away from players coming back as well, so we'll probably see a pretty similar lineup this weekend. So it does make an interesting contest, and it is away as well. It's up there at Trinity's home ground, so very, very interesting.
Could have been even riskier for Old Brighton if Caulfield Grammarians had been able to hang on against St Kevin's. St Kevin's trailed Caulfield by 20 points entering time on in the final term before unleashing a withering burst that kicked 4 goals in 5.5 minutes. They stole the 4 points in a thriller at St Kevin's College. Scob dominated the inside game early. They had 15 clearances to 6 in the opening term, but the Fields able to force them into turnover and then capitalise. So they kicked 3 goals from St Kevin's turnovers and led by 9 points at the first change. Second term, almost the complete opposite. Caulfield won the inside ball, but they turned it over between the arcs. Scob punished them the other way. They kicked 4 goals to 1 and went from 9 points down to 10 points up at half-time. Third term kind of balanced itself out. It was even. It was high pressure. Caulfield working just a little bit harder without the ball, 17 tackles to 7, and managed to get their noses in front via a late handball chain that released Archie Luffman to kick a goal, put them up by 2 points at 3/4 time. Tom Jock struck first to give the lead back to St Kevin's early in the final term. Back-to-back goals to DeBose and Wilson. So suddenly the Fields are 8 points up, 7 minutes in. And 10 minutes without a goal. Caulfield then kicked 2 in 90 seconds. They're out to 20 points up. Surely that's the game entering time on. But then Hugo Goodsides just find another gear when they need to. They flip the game on their heads at St Kevin's. They owned the football. They kicked 4 goals in 5.5 minutes. Got within a couple of points, and then Jack Bank, who was best on the ground, put them back in front at the 26-minute mark. Try as they might, Caulfield couldn't find the winner. 4 minutes later, St Kevin's out of jail. What a 3-point win this was.
Yeah, I think they're doing this too often now, St Kevin's. They just come home with a wet sail. They're very strong, but I think that comes down to experience as well. Like you look at Caulfield, we know they're a younger side, so that's an inexperience, and this is an experience and a confidence too. And their system and format, it was a little bit slow at the start, and I self-admit I was very hard on them early, but geez, they're putting together a good body of work. Like, that was probably a scalp that Caulfield needed to take.
Yeah.
But it shows they can. That's fell over at the.
And that's the thing. I mean, it's sort of been the story of the season to an extent. They're so gritty. They hang in. they served it up to St Kevin's, and as you say, they did everything but beat them. But the reality is they still only sit one game clear of the drop zone.
Yep.
Yeah, and had they held on, they'd have been within one game of the top 4.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show how tight it is in Premier Man, and it can only take a kick, and then suddenly the whole narrative changes. And Caulfield have been so valiant in terms of coming up from Prem B. They struggled a bit to start the season, but then they've got on a bit of a run and have sort of half maintained touch with the top 4 for much of the last month, but to get into finals, and it would be an unlikely finals appearance, but they're the ones that they just had to find a way just to hang on and get over the line and weren't quite able to do so.
Jack Bank, 27 touches, 6 clearances, 12 inside 50s and 3 goals. Billy Coates, what a powerhouse he is. We expected him. We talked about him having that influence this weekend, and sure enough, 25 disposals, 25 contested possessions, 71 hit-outs, 9 clearances for Billy Coates.
We spoke about this on the weekend, Matty. I think he's going to go really well in the Woodrow Medal this year. I think he's been a very consistent performer for St Kevin's. I mean, you can't miss the man on the ground. He's huge.
He's huge.
Yeah. And he's
with
very,
his skins cap on, looking extremely awkward and unimpressed.
but, he's very influential on the ground. I mean, you know, he's also can play a key lockdown defender's role when they need to. So he's a dynamic player.
Well, that's how he started the season, opening game of the season. You'll remember at TH King Oval, he played down back. He's clearly his best position is in the ruck. And I mean, when you're producing numbers like that, 71 hit-outs, 9 clearances, that's a dominant display. And you may be right, Hugo, if he continues on that sort of form, it'll be quite interesting. He got 3 votes on our match of the day a couple of weeks ago when we gave him the skins cap.
I can't believe Kaczynski kicked 7 and he still didn't get the 3 votes either.
No, quite second half.
Quite second half already.
So St Kevin's massive game, as we mentioned, against Old Scotch coming up this weekend. For Caulfield, well, really the next 3 weeks, Hugo, might determine which race they find themselves in. Are they in the finals race or the relegation race? Because they've got Uni Blacks at home, Old Trinity away, St Bernard's away. So 3 games they would look at and go, you know what, they're winnable. We bank these, we're still in the finals mix. But if we drop a couple of them, suddenly we're looking over our shoulder.
Yeah, definitely. So with that loss on the weekend, they can't be down on themselves about that coming into next week. They can't be flat. They've got to take some real momentum out of that game because, like we said, last kick of the day, they would have been a massive scalp. So they've got to take some confidence out of that. And it's a hard message to give to the players, but they need to really bring that momentum that got them into that situation, into this game with the Blacks this week, because I think this is a pivotal one for them in that race that we're talking about. They want to get away from that drop zone and sort of focus on, or we want to try and have a run at the finals here. So it's an important game.
The other thriller of the afternoon was at Princes Park. Old Haileybury came from 15 points down at 3/4 time to score a 5-point win over Old Trinity. Critical game, massively consequential come season's end in this relegation race. And the Tees had led it at all of the first 3 changes. They owned the Sharon in the opening term. They had 103 touches to 56. But as we've often seen this year, Hugo, they didn't convert that weight of possession into a massive territorial advantage. Inside 50s were only 16 to 12. They did kick 4 goals to 3. They led by 7 points at the first break. But that's the balance the Tees are working at the moment. The balance between controlling the footy and defending first, but also being able to go forward to take territory and challenge the opposition defence.
Yeah, it's a confidence thing. You need to be confident enough to hit that one, and also you have to hit it. So it's an execution as well. So it's one of those things. It's a learning, and it's a very tough competition because you're off by a few percent and you will get beaten. 4
goals apiece in the second term. It was quite a fiery contest, this one. It was quite spiteful. There's a bit of tagging going on and then players trying to fly the flags for their teammates, etc. So there were sort of spot fires that sort of happened throughout the day. It was the Tees with a hard-fought 6-point lead at half-time. Opened up a little bit in the third term, some free-flowing footy. Trinity largely controlled the outside. They kicked 3 goals in 9 minutes, got out to 20 points in front midway through the quarter. The Bloods kicked a couple of crucial goals just to keep in touch. Tees kicked a couple more of their own, and at 3/4 time it was Trinity by 15 points. But we've seen it a number of times this year, Matty. Old Haileybury, particularly at home in front of that home crowd, they can get on a bit of a roll in the last quarter and come rumbling home. And it took a little while coming. Archie Harrop kicked the first goal of the final term 11 minutes in. That got it back to 1 straight kick. Jack Kennedy and Charlie Harrop. Charlie Harrop was swung forward after being on the ball for most of the day. Added back-to-back goals a short time later. Suddenly the Bloods are 7 points up. Trinity are now on the ropes. The Tees didn't drop their head. They kept fighting. Lachie Mulcahy pulled down a great mark on the goal line, made it 1 point the difference sort of entering time on. Then Charlie Harrop again kicked a goal, made it back out to 7 for the Bloods. Harrop again, 4 minutes later, he kicked 4 goals in the final term. Hugo, that is a great coaching move from on ball to forward. He kicks 4 in the final term. Trinity threw everything at them late, but in the end, it was a 4-point win for Old Haileybury after a very desperate final 95-point win, 90 seconds. And, Old Trinity leapt over by Haileybury. Haileybury now out of the drop zone. Trinity slide down into it.
Yeah, an important game to win for Haileybury. So Charlie Hope with those 4 in the last quarter. I've been wondering, how's the ball getting to him? That's what you really have to look at, because it's obviously you have to have the ability to get the ball and kick the goal. But what's the lead up? For there's got to be something in a move you could have made, swung around, or even like if there was tagging going on, well, put a lock on him.
Yeah.
But
Well, one of them, as I said, was on the goal line, came off the hands of a contest, and he just dribbled it through. He's right place at the right time. There were a couple out on the leads, etc. It was just a wonderful move. Brady Seckle, superb again. 28 disposals, 15 tackles, 10 clearances, 12 inside 50s, and a goal. He's having quite a year.
Yeah, no, it's an incredible campaign from him, and that last quarter from Harrop, that may be the most important quarter of the Bloods season.
Yeah.
With those 4 goals, because if he doesn't kick them, they fall. They're 2 games behind Old Trinity with 6 games to go in the relegation race, and it becomes a lot harder. But now, not only are they level with them, they're actually out of that relegation zone, only by percentage, but it's level pegging now for the Bloods.
What did Guy Martin make of that performance? Because again, they had to come from 15 points down, and just a critical one that we might look back at the end of the year and say this was the key 30 minutes of footy.
Yeah, so he said it was a really pleasing win. We talked about changes, 8 changes from the side that last played heading into the bye, and 8 from the under-19s team playing. So it was a very inexperienced side. So to be able to come from behind and win a close game with such change, that was a huge effort from him. It said it was a really important win for the season. Obviously, with all of those kids playing, really important win for the future of the Bloods too. Hopefully, a lot of the young players that we saw out there on the weekend provide the nucleus of the group in the long term. So it's great to see. Well, he thought it was great to see them all contributing for the win.
And great for their confidence as well to win a close one like that. From a Trinity perspective, they're on, a 7-game losing streak now. Jack James, who was filling in for Donald McDonald, what did Jack make of it?
he said it was a game of really fine margins. So they went down by less than a goal, but he felt that neither team had control. So it could have gone either way. So you've got to take a positive out of that. They showed a little bit more composure beating Haileybury at crucial times. And then with ball in hand as well. And it was hard-fought physical game, which he obviously was. And they applied excellent pressure all day to the ball carrier. So full credit to Haileybury. What pleased him, though, was their ability to adapt with what was thrown at them. Haileybury has some really versatile players and present different structural looks from week to week. There were times when their experienced players got the better of us and showed their class. But the group continued to the challenge and competed well all day. Had a few guys playing roles that were new to them, and they were really pleased with the way the players embraced that. So that's a glass half empty, half full sort of response.
Yeah.
So, which is a tough game.
Even more critical victory for Old Haileybury when you consider their run home, Matty, includes matchups against all 4 of the top 4 teams. They're going to play all of them. So the 4 points they grabbed on the weekend, critical, because Trinity only have to play 2 of the top 4 teams on the run home. So while Trinity are on a 7-game losing streak, their destiny is very much in their own hands because they're going to play 4 opponents that are around them on the ladder.
Yeah, no, there's a number of 8-point games coming up for Old Trinity in addition to the one that was taking place at the weekend. So, on a couple of fronts for Old Haileybury, this one was absolutely massive because, playing everyone in the top 4 is going to be no mean feat. They're going to do well to pick up at least a win or 2 out of that run. And
the final game of the weekend was also pivotal to that relegation race. It was University Blacks ultimately seeing off a persistent St Bernard's to snatch the 4 points at Melbourne Uni. The teams evenly matched in the opening term. Snowdogs rather won more of the inside ball, but then some extra turnovers saw them 7 points down at quarter time after the Blacks punished those. The Dogs got in front in the possession battle in the second term. They took control in the air as well and managed to hit their targets inside 50, but it was the Blacks in the second quarter that sort of stood up to that challenge. It was 3 goals apiece, and it was the Blacks by 7 points at halftime. The arm wrestle continued into the third term. Blacks won possession and territory, but kicked 2-6, while the Dogs added 3-2 from fewer opportunities to get within a kick at the last change. It was the Blacks by 5 points as they headed for home. And that final term was going to be tense with so much on the line. Neither team could wriggle free of the other in the early going. The Dogs came up with the all-important first goal, a quick transition from halfback Matty Watson, nailed the finish to make it a 1-point game 7 minutes in. The Blacks didn't panic. They went from deep in the forward pocket to the goal line when Achilles Panopoulos got a 50-metre penalty and got back out to 7 points. Harvey Driscoll kicked a goal 3 minutes after that. They had a 13-point lead with 12 minutes gone. The Dogs kept coming. They got back within single digits again, and it was still 7 points approaching the 30-minute mark of the last quarter, but then a crucial turnover launched deep to the top of the square. Tom Sinclair rose up in the middle of the pack, took the grab and sealed the result. So in the end, a goal to Hugh Curnow after the siren made it 19 points, but it was a much closer game than 19 points. It was really a one-kick game for most of the afternoon. And the Blacks back on the winners list, their 4th win of the season. They stay clear of the drop zone. They're 14.5% ahead of ninth place Old Trinity. Still even on points, but 14.5% clear on percentage. So they're within 3 games of the top 4. Final's still mathematically possible, but right now, priority 1, you'd think, for the Blacks, Matty. See off the challenges below them, clear the relegation race. They can leapfrog the Fields. It's a huge game this weekend. I think that's the game, your SEN match of the day this weekend. Caulfield and the Blacks. That's going to be an enormous clash.
No, absolutely a significant one for both teams and their aspirations of 2026, and a really important win for the Blacks too, just to keep pace with Old Xaverians and Old Trinity. As we say, they're all level on 4 wins now. They drop this game against St Bernard's. They find themselves in the relegation race. And conversely, for St Bernard's, it gives them a bit of hope in climbing out. But now, Hugo, they're 2 games behind that team, that group of 3.
Yeah, Blacks need to do some work on their percentage if they want to stay away from that relegation zone. So they've got a hard run coming up as well. So this game this weekend, I mean, it's so important in the context. They just need to focus on this weekend, build for that, put their best foot forward. And at Caulfield as well, tough ground to play at, tough ground to call at, Matty, we know that. But and I think the possibility of some rain this weekend, which makes it even slipperier. So it's an interesting contest.
Credit to Sam Conway. We're talking about Ruckman and their dominance. Sam Conway's final term in that close game on the weekend. He had 12 disposals, 10 of those contested, 18 hit-outs and 9 clearances in the final term.
9 in the final quarter.
That's against Matthew Sorrow as well.
Yeah.
Matthew Sorrow is one of the strongest.
Well, he ended up with 23 touches, 70 hit-outs and 16 clearances for the afternoon.
That's a huge game.
It's a phenomenal performance.
He's an incredible player, isn't he, Sam Conway?
He
When
is.
he takes the game by the throat, he has a huge impact. So St Bernard's, as we mentioned, the numbers suggest they probably need to win at least 3 of their last 6 to avoid relegation, Hugo. They've got 3 games against teams outside the top 4. So they loom large. If they can pick up those 3 games, it's the Bloods round 14, the Fields in round 15, and then the final round against Old Trinity. That could be the one.
Yes.
That could be the one. So it's not over yet for the Snow Dogs. It seems a little grim at the moment, but if they can pick off the teams around them and not worry too much about, yes, they're going to play some top teams as well, including Zabs this week. Minimise the damage against them and then try to pinch those wins against the teams around them. They can still get out.
No, definitely. And they're the experts at it. They've been experienced. But I wouldn't put it past them to claim a scalp in the run home as well, especially as the season gets a little bit later with other teams know where they are. We've seen this before. But they're a very good side. They're another one of these ones that you've played contested footy when you played the Snow Dogs. And the weather may change. It could be a heavier track, something like that. There's just something about it, I think.
Well, their last fortnight of last season was phenomenal. They played Old Xaverians. They wiped them off the map with a phenomenal performance and ran over the top of St Kevin's. And they were 2 teams in the top half of the ladder. So they've done it before. They can do it. They're going to need to do it again.
It's not over yet for the Snow Dogs. Premier Men's just keeps twisting and turning. We've got some fantastic games coming up in round 13. Tips coming up later in the show. Speaking of twists and turns, Premier B Men's, that's next on For the Love of the Game.
Footy finals are almost here, and there's no better way to kick them off than at the 2026 William Buck VAFA Finals Luncheon. Join MC Nat Edwards, AFL legends and Brownlow medalists James Hurd and Jimmy Bartel, plus Jason Bennett and the VAFA media team for a live For the Love of the Game finals preview. Friday, September 4th at the RACV City Club. Enjoy a premium 2-course lunch, beverage package and an unforgettable afternoon of football stories and finals insights. Book your tickets now at vafa.com.au. Don't miss out on one of the biggest events on the VAFA calendar.
This is For the Love of the Game. It is time to talk Premier B Men's. Matty, how was your tipping on the weekend?
I actually don't know, Jace. I think I did okay.
Yeah, he says that most weeks, Hugo, doesn't he? Okay is a relative term, which I like. He sets his expectations extremely low. I think I might have got 1 or 2.
Yeah.
It's actually enjoyable watching him squirm on a Saturday.
As he does around the grounds.
Yeah, it's always trepidation. It's highlight of my weekend.
Am I brave enough to look at the scores?
Well, I'll
this
tell
week
you
or
what, I'm
not?
going to do you a massive solid here.
Yep.
A draw is a tip.
Yeah, beauty.
Yes.
Yes.
No,
I know, I heard you guys arguing about it on the weekend. I'm going to give it to you. It was Beau Morris, it was Old Geelong. It was Beau Morris by a bit in the last quarter. They looked to have the game wrapped up. Old Geelong came charging home, hit the front, and then final siren. Ball sails through. It's a draw.
Yeah, a genuine buzzer beater. And we don't actually get many of those in this great game of ours. But no, that's what we had here at Como Park. You mentioned that Beau Morris, they led by as much as 18 points early in the last term. They looked to have the game sealed up. But then the OGs, they flipped the script. They kicked 3 goals in a row to take the lead heading into time on. And then it felt like that they had it. But it was James Pepper who gathered the ball in the forward pocket. There were a stack of players around the footy. He put the ball in the air. He set it towards goal. As the ball was in the air, the siren sounded and it thundered into the post. Watching it back on the replay, there was a bit of a debate as to whether the score actually counts or not. It did, and it meant that the scores were locked up at 9-14, 68 apiece in the end. An absolute thriller. Our second draw of the campaign in Premier B men's.
And obviously with both, aren't they?
Yes.
So now they've got a win. It's worth a win and a loss.
Yes. Both Old Geelong playing in both draws. And what it means now for the ladder, for the Sharks at least, they move to within half a game at the top 4. This might be a bit annoying for the Sharks, actually, because they've got one of the best percentages in the competition. It now doesn't mean anything because they've got the half a game gap on everybody else.
Still take the 2 points, though, wouldn't you? This stage, Hugo.
Definitely.
And Old Geelong, who were in the relegation fight not all that long ago, they're only a game outside finals at this stage.
And a game and a half clear now, the drop zone.
Yes.
So that, again, that half game. We saw it last year in a couple of different sections, Hugo. You bemoan the fact that you let 2 points slip away. Then you get to the end and you go, well, without those two, we wouldn't have either made finals or stayed up.
Now, it's funny how often it does happen, but those 2 points, they tend to come into play every year. And it's one of those things, you look at that game and you can look at it 2 ways. You go, geez, we should have won that, or geez, we were lucky to get those 2 points. We should never have won that. I mean, you're down by 18 points coming into time on.
Yeah.
It's you probably...
You take a draw at that point.
Oh, absolutely. Because you think, you think you shouldn't lose from that situation. But football now is such a momentum beast that once a side gets on a roll like that, and just think about Como Park, that's massive. So there is space there. So I wonder if that had a thing to do with that, where you can get out to space so you can retain possession. And then once that momentum's going, and the coaching's not involved in there because the players are on the ground. You can't make any moves in those last couple of minutes. You can't virtually do anything. So it's a good thing. And you watch that momentum will carry through to next week.
Yeah.
And both coaches had mixed emotions after the game. Josh Burke of Bo Morris, he thought that the first half was really strong, but they didn't have the opportunities to then take their opportunities to really put the game to bed. And they got a little bit lucky at the end, falling behind late, but then finding that point through Pepper. And Nick Dixon of Old Geelong said it was a tale of two halves. He thought they were pretty average in the first half, was really pleased with the way they were able to get back into the game and then get in front. But by the same token, was disappointed with the fact that once they got in front, they had the momentum, but they weren't able to see it out and claim the 4 points. So 2 points gained in some respects and 2 points lost in another. It was a really even game, obviously, at Como Park.
Well, one of the games we were really interested in on the weekend was Ajax and Old Melburnians. Again, Ajax have been going great, but we know they're down a few players at the moment. Old Melburnians have been very hard to get a handle on all year. Their best football's been good enough to challenge everyone except collegians. Their worst footy's been bad enough to lose to everybody in the competition. But in the end, Old Melburnians, 14-9-93, defeated Ajax 9-12-66, a 27-point away win for them. That's huge.
Good kicking is good football, Hugo,
Yes.
and you're going to love this. The first 9 scores from OMs, all majors. Wow. 6 points. They were 9-zip-54 at one stage, and that proved to be the difference in the end. They were a little wayward after half time, as we mentioned, the final score 14-9-93, but set the game up with a devastating first half in front of goal, led by Jack Spargo, who kicked 6 goals for the OMs. And this was a genuine top 4 encounter. It propels the OMs into the top 4 now. As for Ajax, they're still in second spot, but it's not as strong a stranglehold as it was.
Yeah, it's only a few percent, isn't it?
Now. Yeah. Only and in that case now. And for James Burm, who was the OM's coach, he said they were really good in the contest, and that's where it started. They went hard at the ball right from the start. They were able to play the game in their half for long periods of time, which allowed them to set up well behind the ball. And obviously, when you're kicking 9 straight to start the game, you give yourself every chance of getting over the line.
They're the team that obliterate your power rankings every week. OM's trying to find out where do they actually fit in this scheme of things. Are they a top 4 team, do you think? Are they a finals? Are they headed for September?
I think they're definitely in the mix. I think they're definitely in the mix. And there's probably...
There's 9 teams in the mix.
There's 9 teams that are in the mix. I know they had a bit of a slow start to the season, but I reckon if we factor in just... if we exclude the opening month and look at the form since, I reckon they'd be one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the competition alongside probably Collegians and Ajax at this point. So I would think on extended form, they would have to be right up there as one of the better teams in the competition. But it is so tight that, if one bad week and the whole script could change again.
There's something interesting about that game, Matty. At quarter time, they're up by 14 points, but they had 1 less scoring shot. So there's scoreboard pressure right there, and then it just filtered through the rest of the game. And Ajax only kicked 66 points for the game, and Old Melburnians at half-time are already 63. So that's a dominant win, but it's off the back of scoreboard pressure.
Yeah, and as you said, it lifts them from 7th to 4th. They lose that game, they're 7th. At the moment, they sit inside the top 4. That's how tight things are.
Well, next week's very important. They want to keep that momentum going. So this is not just a one-off, because you can look back and say, Ajax had players out, or they were a bit flat that week, but you want to keep that consistent momentum, especially now. This is the important run now, this next 6 games.
Old Geelong De La Salle, Old Carey. They're their next 3 games.
Could be 3 wins or 3 losses.
Who knows?
It's
hard to read.
Hard to tip. I can tell you from experience. And Lockie Buzzard, he just said that they were too good in experience for them. He was very critical of his players. He said they were smashed at the contest. They outnumbered. They actually made the Jackers look like a C-grade side, is how he described it. So he gave full credit to James Byrne and what the OMs were doing, but they just couldn't get the game on their terms at any point, the Jackers.
Speaking of impossible to pick, Old Carey, who came into the game on the weekend having lost 5 of their last 6, and then they got the job done over Williamstown. 16-13, 109, defeated the CYs 10-11, 71.
This was a pivotal blitz during time on in the third term. This one, the final 10 minutes of the third quarter was what set it up. The CYs actually led at quarter time and half time, and heading into time on the third term, they still held a 4-point advantage against the Panthers. But Old Carey then kicked 3 goals in time on, and it broke the game open from there, and they went on to add critical percentage in the last term, 16-13, 109 to 10-11, 71. The 38-point win doesn't really do justice to how even the game was for over 2.5 quarters in this match. But for the Panthers, they now move to within a game of the top 4, and critically, a game and a half outside of the relegation zone. And for Williamstown, it puts them in a bit of a precarious position now. They're in last spot. They're 2.5 games clear from safety at this point.
Yeah, well, that's it. Well, yeah, that's right. Well, if you factor in percentage, it's 2 games plus 17% that they sit behind. So effectively almost 3 games, which is going to make life difficult for them, Hugo. But it's sort of the story of CY's year. They've played great footy in patches, but as we've seen in some teams in other sections as well, just haven't quite been able to put it together for 4 quarters or enough of the 4 quarters to actually end up getting the points. And that sounds like that's what happened again on the weekend.
And what happens is it becomes mentally draining for the players because they're always in the back of their mind. They're in a form slump. They haven't had a great run. Even though they were in front of half
their last 8.
And then they're just thinking, when's it going to happen? And if something goes wrong, and then just that confidence drains. So it's tough. It's hard to turn that around.
Yeah, no, definitely. And for Contazoglu, who's the CY's coach, he sort of said that that's where it changed. It was for 2.5 quarters, it was really close. He thought it was a really good game, actually, up until the 20-minute mark of the third term. Then the Panthers just started to get stronger in the contested situation. They locked the ball in their forward half for the last 10 minutes of the third, hit the scoreboard, got the 3 goals, and that left the team deflated a bit at 3-quarter time. And then, as we sort of see in the last quarter, that's when it got away from them a bit, when they felt that the die had been cast, and Old Carey really cashed in. For Luke Giles, he thought the second half, well, he hopes that the second half is a bit of a turning point now for the team. He thought the way that they defended, and they came forward to defend as a team rather than being reactive, he thought that was a really pivotal moment in the game. Consider that they've probably got to be borderline perfect to sneak into the finals from this point on. But it's good that it's good from their point of view that now they feel like they've got something to play for every single week between now and season's end.
And they've got Old Campbell, this is Carey, Old Campbell, Collegians, Old Melburnians, Old Geelong, Beau Morris, and Old Ivanhoe. So, I mean, effectively, we're almost starting finals now, aren't we, in Prem B? Like, it's almost like a round-robin play-in tournament to actually make it to September, because all these teams are going to be playing against each other, knocking each other over week after week.
Now, it'll be interesting. You get to have a really good look at each other now as well, and it'll be fresh in your mind coming into finals. And you're trying to look for those little things just where you can get an advantage. So it's a good run.
The anomaly of Premier B, it's so close except for one team. Collegians are miles in front of the pack and have been all year. Against Old Ivanhoe on the weekend out at Chelsworth Park, they kicked the first 10 goals of the game, I think, wasn't it? Something like that. That was 60-3 when Old Ivanhoe kicked their first goal. That came 22 minutes into the second quarter.
Yeah, speaking of miles ahead, 104 points the final margin in this one. 24-12, 156 to 8-4-52. The Lions were never troubled in this match. Will Dean led the way for the Lions. He kicked 6 goals. Jim Bazzani, a big day for him. Game 150 for the club, and he celebrated with 31 disposals and a major. So he just keeps on keeping on, does Jim Bazzani, and he's certainly not alone in that respect for Collegians. Other results at the weekend mean that they now have extended their lead to 5 games. Having just played 12 of the season, they're 5 games clear of everyone else.
This might be Senchi's lock.
Yeah,
Senchi's lock is that Collegians will make the finals. Oh, thanks, Senchi. That's great.
Put his reputation on the line there.
Just about safe from here, you would think, Collegians, at this point. The Hoas remain in 9th place. They sit a game and a half from safety now. So they've got to start getting on a roll and start getting some wins on the board.
And that percentage copped a whack too, didn't it? It's dropped down to 80 now. So they're if they're on the same sort of points spread as Beau Morris, who've got a draw as well. So they're 6 points behind Carey and Geelong, so the percentage doesn't matter there. But now behind Beau Morris, they're actually 27 behind Beau Morris percentage-wise. So basically they're 3 games behind Bowie.
It's getting closer to another game, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
And not looking like it's going to improve.
So it may well be that if they want to try and leapfrog Old Carey, the old cliche percentage of infinity may come into play there for Old Ivanhoe at this point. But a game and a half behind them at the very least to begin with.
They've got DYLAN, Bowie, Old Geelong, Old Melburnians, and they finish with Willie and Old Carey. So those last two games, you never know, might come down to the last couple of weeks for the Hoers.
Well, you think that Carey game, don't you? That last game. There's always one every year. That might be the one we're really focusing on.
That could be the win and you're in one.
Yeah.
For Geordie McKenzie, he said that they just had winners all across the ground. The midfield set the tone for the day. Dominant display. The work rate and cleanliness stood out in particular for them. The back line was steadfast. They conceded a very low score, as we said, 52 points, and up forward, plenty of different avenues. I mentioned Dean, he kicked 6. Zach Greaves, he kicked 4. As well, so 10 goals between the two of them. For Xavier Nation, Old Ivanhoe, he said that there was a lot that they could learn, a lot of positives that they could take away from the game despite the defeat. He gave full credit to collegians who are in a sweet spot right now. He put it that the fundamentals were through the roof. Their stoppage work was so impressive, and their pressure forced the Hoers to drop their skills a little bit, but there's still positives that he said they could take away from the game, and while focusing on those, there's still a lot of areas that they can look to improve on.
Old Camberwell came into the game against DYLAN, having won 5 of their last 6, and things were tight in the first half, Matty, but then after half-time, it was DYLAN powering away. They kicked 10 goals to 4 and ended up running out 47-point winners.
Yeah, particularly in that third term, 6 goals to 2 after a pretty even first half. It was a fine third term and fine second half, in truth, from DYLAN. In the end, 16-14, 110 to 10-3, 63. So accurate kicking there from the Wellers, Hugo, but just weren't able to get it inside 50 quite enough. In terms of what it means for the ladder, it's a big result now for DYLAN because they moved to equal second on the ladder. They're behind Ajax only by percentage, and not a lot of percent either. It's very close indeed. And they're up to third. The Wellers slide outside the top 4. They now sit in 5th spot. So the 47-point win has done a bit of damage to their percentage. So they move behind Old Melburnians as a result.
By Morris, half a game back on 22. Old Carey and Old Geelong on 20. So Old Geelong sit 8th, but they're only 1 game and 4% outside the top 4.
No, that just gives you an indication on how close Prem B is, that we're on the final stretch and still you can be well in the bottom half of the table and still vying for finals. Does look like, though, now there's a bit of a chasm between the top 8 and then the bottom 2 in that relegation fight. Now, that could all change within a week, given the nature of Prem B. But Old Ivanhoe sit a game and a half behind Old Geelong, and then Williamstown CYMS half a game behind the Hoers. So those two have got to get their skates on. They've probably got to pick up a few wins between now and season's end if they want to play catch-up.
So much to play for in Premier B. Next up, we're going to talk Premier C. It was first versus second, and a massive result. We've got a special guest coming up next on For the Love of the Game. The VAFA Rising Star Award recognises the competition's most talented young players. Each week, the VAFA Rising Star Committee receives nominations for 1 male and 1 female player aged 20 years or under who played no more than 7 senior games before this season. Our overall season winners will be declared the VAFA Rising Stars for 2026. So if your club has a young gun making their mark, nominate them now at media@vafa.com.au. This is For the Love of the Game. It's time to talk Prem C men's, and all eyes on the weekend. We're on first versus second. It was Parkdale Vultures taking on Fitzroy. And joining us is the vice-captain of the Vultures, OLLY GREEN. Ollie, welcome.
G'day guys, how are you?
Oh, I'm going really well, mate. Let's talk through this game. First versus second, coming into it, obviously Fitzroy undefeated to that point of the year. What was the messaging leading into the game?
I was just talking a fair bit, our coach, about how they kind of, took control in round 2 when they played against us. So we just really wanted to make a kind of statement in Prem C and to Fitzroy that we can go up against these guys because they were undefeated. So make them, I guess, the hunter, and I thought that we did that well on the weekend.
I'm here with Matty Donald and Hugo Higginbotham. They had you at the first 3 changes. It was 11 points at quarter time, 3 goals at half time, 9 points at 3/4 time. Did you kind of feel like you were chasing all day but managing to hang in?
Yeah, definitely. It was like just one of those classic hard-fought games for the whole game. Like sometimes we had a few goals kicking our way, and then sometimes they had it their way. But yeah, they were leading obviously at the breaks every time. But we just went to the last quarter knowing that we could, I guess, we're pretty fit as a team, I believe. So we all knew in the back of our minds that we could hopefully just outrun them and, just have a bit of belief in the last quarter.
Ollie, congratulations on the win. A terrific performance from you guys at home. You trailed by as much as 16 points early in that last term. You mentioned that you think you're a pretty good side, that you're able to run them down. Was there anything else that you guys were really able to do quite well in that last phase of the game that got you over the line?
Oh, definitely. I think I was talking to one of my mates yesterday about the game and just the ability for all of us to know that I think we were just maybe a couple points up with like 5 minutes to go. So everyone was just making sure to have repeat stoppages and just contest first and keeping it in tight. So it was in their forward 50 with like a minute or 2 minutes to go. And I think we were all just saying, yeah, keep it tight, make sure to tackle. And yeah, it was a little bit nerve-wracking at the end, but everyone played their role to a T, which was perfect.
So, Ollie, with a win like that, and you've had a chance to reflect, is there a lot of belief coming out of that from the group that on your day you can be the best?
Yeah, definitely. And last year we were like 17-1 last year, so throughout the whole season we had a fair bit of belief then. But I think, yeah, going into, I guess, finals and 20 end of the season, we just need to believe that we can do it in finals as well. And belief and confidence can come in different ways, but I think we've just got to be focused on a week-to-week basis and just go into every week like how we did against Fitzroy.
So you sit now equal second, one game behind Fitzroy. You got Mazenod this week, who are also on 40 points. That's another blockbuster game. Gee, it's a tough fortnight, but if you can come through the other side unscathed, you're in a great position.
Yeah, exactly. And Mazenod are a pretty good outfit. They took it up against us last time we played them, but yeah, we're definitely up for the challenge, and we knew that these 2 weeks were coming up, obviously, and we're definitely up for the challenge, and Mazenod are going to be good. They're not going to back away, and so yeah, no, we're definitely up for it though.
Tell us about what makes your team good. Where's your competitive advantages, Ollie? Where do you beat teams?
Well, I'm not a massive stats fan, but I know the coaches are, and they're always mentioning about like contest first, our contest ability to win it in tight, and we got some other players as well that are really good on the outside too. So I think we're like number 1 or number 2 in midfield tackles, and so we're pretty good on the inside. So I think that's where we beat our opposition. But yeah, we've definitely got some good role players who play on the outside really well too. So we've got a good mix.
Yeah, Ollie, I love the role play myself, mate, being an ex-coach. So who's 1 or 2 of the guys in the team that don't get massive stats or accolades, but you know you can guarantee and rely on them each week, and you need those coming into finals?
Well, we've got a few half backers and back pockets who are just unreal. Like they lock down their player all the time. We got like Nat Petty, Ben Fennick. I thought Max Phillips was awesome on the weekend with his tackling ability. I'm not sure how many disposals he's averaged, but his tackling was awesome on the weekend. It was something to really uphold for everyone else, and he showed the standard of what we have to do every week.
Mitch Brown leads ton watch for us. We always keep a good close eye on Mitch, but I noticed he was on the sidelines on the weekend. What's the story with Mitch?
Yeah, Mitch has got a bit of a hamstring issue.
That's a setback for ton watch.
Yeah, I know, which is a little bit annoying, but that's all right. He'll work his way back in. I'm not sure what his timeline is, but he'll let us know. He's a solo operator sometimes, but that's what we love about him. So, he's good.
Doing your hamstring is what happens when you kick it too much, Jason. Mitch Brown's been doing a lot of kicking.
Kick it on his opposite foot. Just get out there, Mitch. Yes. We need you to get the ton.
I know. I was surprised though. So he'll be right in the coming weeks.
Ollie, you mentioned last year and then getting to the finals from Parkdale's point of view last year, not quite getting through to the grand final. You're on track to sort of get to September again this year. What were some of the lessons that you learned from last year's finals campaign that you're hoping to implement when you get there this time around?
Well, yeah, obviously last year with being 17-1, I think we all had a bit of an expectation of us to kind of get to the end, but I think we were all just thinking a little bit too far, which was, I guess, I did that too. I think a few other of us did as well, which was, when you're in that situation, that's all you can really think about, because you're like, well, we're 17-1, we're in a good position here, but I think the lessons from last year is that we're just going to take it, just the classic cliche, week by week.
Well done.
Going with the with the kind of same mindset every week of just what we do well, and just go back to the basics. So yeah, whoever we come up against in the last kind of rounds and I guess finals as well, we're just gonna have to go with that same contest mindset. If it's a lower team or if it's a higher team, it's just any team can get you.
Take care of the process. Outcome takes care of itself. Here you go.
That's exactly right.
Now, Ollie, on a personal level, we met you at Kingston Heath. You were working behind the bar. We had the VAFA Golf Day there early in the year. Now, I think you've got a promotion. What are you doing now?
Yeah, I'm just a groundskeeper down at Kingston Heath now, so I'm outside in the sun, which is good. So some days it's a little bit freezing, like right now, but yeah, no, it's good, man. It's good. Bit of walking, so yeah, it's fit.
Are you a golfer yourself?
I have gotten into it, yeah, but I need to get into it a little bit more. I need to start playing on the regular Sundays and get a gig out here at Kingston Heath as well. But yeah, I like my golf.
Well, enjoy the sunshine, mate. It is a beautiful day. Hey, best of luck this weekend. We can't wait to see this one play out at Central Reserve. Mazenod versus Parkdale Vultures. Congratulations on the win on the weekend, mate. Best of luck for the road ahead.
Cheers, Jace. Thank you. Have a good one.
So a great win there for Parkside over Fitzroy, handing them their first loss of the year. Other results around the grounds from Premier C over the weekend. Ormond, big win for them. The Mondas, 16-17-113, defeated Marcelin 6-11-47 by 66 points. Mazenod kept on keeping on. Huge win. 19-16-130, defeated Old Peninsula 3-6-24 by 106 points. Massive win for St Bede's as well. St Bede's Mentone Tigers, 19-20-134, defeated Glenara Old McKinnon 2-5-17, 117-point win there. And Hampton Rovers continued the blowouts. It was 19-16-130, the Rovers over Pegs 9-8-62, so 68 points there. We have seen some big margins in Premier C this season. When the top teams play the bottom teams, there's been some serious spankings. Let's update the ladder now with Fitzroy's lead at the top. They're now 11-1, so their advantage is slipped back to one game. They're on 44 points. Parkdale and Mazenod sit on 40, and as we mentioned, they play this week. That is going to be a monster game. One game further back is Hampton Rovers on 36. Then outside the top four is St Bede's by a game on 32, the Tigers. And then it's a big gap, 5 games back to Peg. So we've got very clearly in Premier C, as we've been saying for a few weeks now, the top 5 and the bottom 5. But the bottom 5 are all in the race for relegation. So at the moment, everyone in Premier C's got something to play for, because St Bede sit 5th, but they're very much still in the mix to play finals. Peg sit 6th, but they're still very much in the mix to avoid relegation. On 12 points, Pegs and Old Peninsula, and then the bottom 3 now all on 8, because Ormond had that win. They're on 8, Marcelin on 8, Glenara, Old McKinnon on 8. So the bottom 5 teams in Premier C separated by one game. It is going to be quite the run home to September. Let's talk men's divisional footy. We'll start with Div 1.
We will, and unfortunately not a lot of close games this weekend in Div 1, a fair few blowouts. We'll start with the closest match of all, at Victoria Park. It was Kew who defeated Parkside by 50 points, 16-11-107 to 8-9-57. In addition to that, Old Yarra Cobras and Oakley were too good in this one, a 65-point win for them, 22-17, 149 to 13-6-84. Preston Bull Ants made it 13 and zip with an 86-point win over UHSVU, 23-12, 150 to 10-4-64, and then a couple of 100-plus point wins. Mary Salesian, 23-18, 156 to Brunswick, 8-2-50, a 106-point there for St Mary Salesian. And then Paran, 161-point win over Monash Blues, 28-17, 185 to 4 straight 24 for the Monash Blues. And we look at the ladder now. Preston Bull Ants, mentioned them. They're still out on top, 13 and zip. They're 4 games clear of the chasing pack. 3 teams locked on 9 wins. Paran, Parkside and Kew, all with a 9-4 record. 1 game behind them are Oakley. A game behind them, St Mary's Salesian. Then a game and a half back to them are Brunswick. And then there's a bit of a gap thereafter. UHSVU are still half a game clear of Monash Blues at the moment. And then Old Yarra Cobras rounding out the ladder, still looking for their first win of the year.
Hugo, you might have the closest section of all. We keep talking about Premier B, but certainly at the top of the ladder in Division 2 men's, it is extraordinary.
Yes, it's a good competition this one this year, and there's some big results this week. So at Aquinas College, North Brunswick got the result up there, 8-12-60, defeating Aquinas 5-12-42 by 18 points. And then at Lindsay Hassett Oval, Canterbury, 15-9-99, defeated South Melbourne 7-13-55. That was a 44-point victory. At Alstonwick Park, number 2, we had Elsternwick 19-17, 131, defeating Whitefriars 7-13, 55, a massive 76-point victory there.
And that was big because that's fourth versus fifth, and
Yeah.
fifth's knocked off fourth and gained a ton of percentage on them as well.
Correct. So it's getting really tight up the top there. Now at Melbourne High, we've got Melbourne High 18-16, 124, defeated Terry Penola 10-9, 69. I think they're the form team in the comp at the moment, Melbourne High. They're on a really good run. So that was a 55-point victory. And then West Brunswick 11-4, 70, defeated Powerhouse 7-6, 48 by 22 points. So that was an unexpected
Huge. West Brunswick sits sixth. Powerhouse was sitting on top of the ladder.
Yep.
They still are, but now they've got some company up there as well.
Yeah, it's getting very tight up there. So all on 36 points. We've got Powerhouse with a percentage of 133, Canterbury with a percentage of 125, Melbourne High with a percentage of 121, and Whitefriars got coming off that defeat a percentage of 108. So
top four all locked together on 9 wins.
Top four. Now fifth, Elsternwick on 32 points, just one game behind, but a percentage of 138. So that's big. So that's going to be very interesting. And then behind them with 6 wins, we've got West Brunswick on 24. Then sitting 7th on 5 wins, we've got Terry Penola with a percentage of 80. So that's probably a little bit deficient for where they want to be. And then in 8th with 4 victories, we've got South Melbourne with another percentage of 85. Then 9th with 4 wins, we've got North Brunswick with a very low percentage, 74. And then Port Aquinas with 2 wins and their percentage of 58. So very tight at the top there. So a few things to play out in the coming weeks.
It was round 14 of Division 3 men's, just the 2 games as always. Wattle Park 12-14, 86 defeated Richmond Central, 5-8, 38, 8-goal win there for the Animals. And then a monstering at Rathmines Road Reserve. Hawthorn 36-23, 239, defeated Albert Park 5-8, 38 by 201 points. Latrobe had the bye. It does feel like, Matty, these results, these big blowout results are up and down the comp at the moment. Feels like the Tullamarine Flu's having a bigger impact this year than it has in previous years. Maybe because it's a World Cup year, I don't know. But it certainly seems like it's been a longer impact and it's been a deeper impact right up and down the competition.
Yeah, it does certainly feel like that now you mention it, Jace. A lot of the divisions and competitions that we're going through, there seems to be a lot of teams that are being affected by
they're tight throughout the year. Then we hit this middle of the year and there's been some just uncharacteristic blowouts.
Yeah, it's very unusual, and maybe it is that it is a World Cup year. I know it's a very popular event around the world, so that could be having an impact, but that's done now. So hopefully for those teams that are suffering from a bit of unavailability, they start getting some of their star players back.
Yeah, so Wattle Park are out at the lead of the pack here in Division 3 still. They're one of our undefeated teams. We'll have Senchi on later to talk us through, because we did lose at least Fitzroy. Fitzroy got beaten for the first time, so we'll see if anyone else slipped over the weekend. But Wattle Park are still 11 and zip. They are undefeated. They're 4 games clear of Richmond Central on 28, 1 game back to Hawthorn on 24, Latrobe on 12, and Albert Park on 4 points. That is men's divisional footy. That's the men's competition for this week. After the break, we'll talk VAFA women's. That's next on For the Love of the Game.
Footy finals are almost here, and there's no better way to kick them off than at the 2026 William Buck VAFA Finals Luncheon. Join MC Nat Edwards, AFL legends and Brownlow medalists James Hurd and Jimmy Bartel, plus Jason Bennett and the VAFA media team for a live For the Love of the Game finals preview. Friday, September 4th at the RACV City Club. Enjoy a premium 2-course lunch, beverage package and an unforgettable afternoon of football stories and finals insights. Book your tickets now at vafa.com.au. Don't miss out on one of the biggest events on the VAFA calendar.
This is For the Love of the Game. Let's talk William Buck Premier Women's, and Caulfield Grammarians, the league leaders, kept on keeping on. 5-13-43, defeated St Kevin's 2-3-15 by 28 points at Glen Huntley Park. Great win for Old Geelong, 3-9-27 over Fitzroy 1-1-7. The Ogs by 20 points. Old Brighton in the tightest game of the weekend in Premier Women's. They got the job done just over Westbourne Grammarians, 6-5 to 5-6 by 5 points. Old Brighton out at Andrew Park Pavilion, and Old Scotch over Q 12-12-84, defeated Q 3 straight 18 by 66 points. So we checked the ladder, and it is Caulfield Grammarians and Old Scotch still locked together on 40 points. They are battling it out. The top 2 almost set. They're 4 games clear of the rest. Hugo, the real interest here is going to be in positions 3 and 4, as it was last year. You got West Brunswick on 24, Old Brighton on 24, Q on 24, Fitzroy on 20, St Kevin's and Old Geelong on 16. So from 3rd spot to 8th spot, 2 games.
Yeah, very tight. So, geez, I guess it comes down to you want your availability now too, don't you? Your best players on the park, and every game's so important. It's great.
Yeah, Westbourne Grammarians bring up the field with the one game. So that's Premier Women's. As we say, the top two have cleared out. But gee, it's going to be a fascinating run for third and fourth on the run home as it was in 2025. What's happening in Prem B?
Interesting weekend of football in Prem B, Jace. It's fair to say some really intriguing results. We'll start at Elstonwick Park. Old Melburnians, who went into the day second on the ladder against Glenara Old McKinnon, who was seventh. And Old Melburnians given a massive scare here. They just held on by 5 points, 3-3-21 to 2-4-16 in the end. So the OM's just getting the job done over the Griffins. Old Yarra Cobras at Pitcher Park, away to Parkside. This was 6th v 8th, but Old Yarra Cobras getting a big win, just their second of the season. 46 points they won by, 9-3-57 to 1-5-11. So great result there for the Cobras.
Well, they've been working so hard. They've come up, I think, a couple of sections from last year. So they've done it tough. So days like that just build a huge amount of confidence, belief, and just joy, Hugo. Just some fun.
No, exactly. And it makes the players want to come to training, be together, and get the result like that. It's great.
No, it was a terrific result for them. This was a bit of a shock. Old Xaverians against Port Melbourne Chargers. They were neck and neck on the ladder, one game separating. The Port Melbourne Chargers winning by 44 points, 10-5-65 to 3-3-21 that match at Basel Reserve. And the only other match, and this was probably the one that came with the least surprise, Beau Morris, who went into a top of the ladder, and they defeated Williamstown 4-9-33 to 0-7-7. So Beau Morris getting the win there by 26 points.
That Port Old Zabs, as you go through the ladder now, that result's so important in the margin too, because it's allowed the Chargers now to jump ahead of Zabs on percentage for that third spot.
They have leapfrogged them because they're both level on 6 wins apiece. Beau Morris still out on top, 12 from 12. So we know that they've kept their unbeaten streak going. Old Melburnians, 3 games behind them with an 8-3 record. 2 games behind them, you mentioned Port Melbourne Chargers, Old Xaverians, 3% separating the two sides there. But it's a big result there for the Chargers, not just the 4 points, but the percentage that comes with it. A game behind those two, Williamstown CYMS and Parkside. And then Glenira Old McKinnon sit a game behind Parkside and Williamstown CYMS. 2 games behind them, Old Yarra Cobras, who's still in last spot, but picked up their second win of the year.
Yeah, so the race in Prem B Women's at the moment, it's definitely 6 into 4, potentially, for the top 4, and potentially even 7th if you consider Glenira Old McKinnon are 2 games back, but need to get on a bit of a run, but they have got a fantastic percentage, so that will certainly help them. Let's talk women's divisional, Hugo. We'll start with Div 1.
Div 1, we had some big results in this one, Jace. So out at Latrobe Uni, so Monash Blues 4-12, defeating Latrobe 3 behinds. That was an 18-point victory. And then at the Whitefriars College, this was a close one. We had Whitefriars 3-6-24, defeating Powerhouse 3-4-22. So a 2-point victory there, very close one. And then a couple of big results here. So Marcelin 7-11-53 against Old Carey, who failed to register a score. And then Ormond at EE Gun Reserve, Ormond 6-13-49, defeating Oakley, who also failed to register a score. So some big results there.
The top 2 teams just getting it done.
Yeah, exactly. And then as we turn to the ladder, that's right. Here it comes.
Hugo's determined to do this on his phone every week, everybody.
He refuses to relent.
No, that's right. I'm old school. No, we've got Marcelin out in front with 10 wins and a big percentage of 147. Ormond trailing them with 9 wins, sitting second, but a massive percentage of 271. So that's really big. And then we've got Powerhouse with 8 wins and a percentage of 197. In sitting fourth, we've got Monash, which is 7 wins, and they've got a percentage of 125. And then a little bit of a gap back to Whitefriars in 5th with 5 wins. Then Old Carey in 6th with 4 wins. And then Oakley and Latrobe 7th and 8th, both with 2 wins. So reasonably tight at the top, but a bit of a break getting there in the ladder.
So Division 2 women's, we mentioned Division 2 men's is tight at the top because you've got all these teams at a level. The top 4 are all level on points. Well, guess what? Division 2 women's, exactly the same as Division 2 men's. The top 4 teams now are all locked together on 32 points. Here's the results from the weekend. St Mary's Salesian 8-1-49, defeated MCC 2-10-22. So 9 scoring shots to 12. St Mary's had 3 less scoring shots and won by 27 points. 8-1 to 2-10. That's a day that just makes the MCC coach just goes home and kicks the cat. Richmond Central 3-8-26 defeated Beau Morris 2-2-14 by 12 points. Close one at Boss James. Hampton Rovers 4-3-27 got the job done again over an inaccurate UHSVU 2-9-21. So they had 11 shots to 7 and lost the game by a kick. And Old Camberwell 3-3-21 defeated DLA 1-3-9 by 12 points. So we checked the ladder. And as I mentioned, top 4 teams in Division 2 women's all locked together on points. Richmond Central 32, percentage 187. St Mary's Salesian 32, 184. De La Salle 32, 166. Camberwell 32, 154.7. So 4 excellent teams in Division 2. Then Beaumaris and UHSVU both still in the mix as well. Bowie are only 1 game behind in 5th spot. UHSVU on 20 points, 1 game further back to MCC, 1 game further back to Hampton. So 32, 32, 32, 32, 28 and 20. Division 2 women's, that's going to the wire as well.
There's a bit of a theme, I think, in divisional women's, Jace, because there's a 3-way tie for top in Div 3 too. We'll get to that in just a moment. We'll go through the scores because, again, a couple of narrow escapes for some sides on the weekend. Parkdale Vultures, who went into the day on top of the ladder against Caulfield Grammarians, who are sitting in the bottom half of the table. They won by 12 points, 5-2-32 to 3-2-20 at Glen Huntley Park. Old Yarra Cobras have only got 1 win to their name all season. They just fell short against Hawthorn, 2-2-14 to 1-2-8 at Coonung Reserve. So a very close escape there for Hawthorn. And then Old Haileybury getting the job done over the 2 Blue Lions. Paran Collegians 5-7-37 to 4-2-26 in the end at Princes Park. As we look at the ladder now, Parkdale, Old Haileybury and Hawthorn all level on 10 wins apiece. Percentage of the gap there, Parkdale's is still sitting at an impressive 520%. And then Old Haileybury and Hawthorn, their percentages sitting just over 200 at this point. So still reasonably strong. 4 games behind them. Paran Collegians at this point with a 6-6 record, and then 4 games behind them, Caulfield Grammarians with a 2-10 record, and then Old Yarra Cobras with just 1 win to their name for the season.
Let's talk Div 4 women's.
Div 4, so Bennett's Wood Reserve, Wattle Park, 4-4-28, defeated Albert Park, and that was a 28-point victory. And then at Rathmines, we had Canterbury, 5-8-38, defeating North Brunswick, 1-9. So that bad kicking again, 15. So they won by 22 points. And then at Gillen Oval, so we had Mazenod 3-5-23, defeating Brunswick 1 straight goal, 6 points. So that was a 17-point victory. And then we've got Old Zavs 86-54, defeating Fitzroy 1-1-7. So a massive 47-point victory there. And Aquinas, this was the big one there, 12-7-79, defeating the Muggers 1-8. That was a 71-point victory there. So some big results there as we turn to the ladder. And Wattle Park, so we've got sitting on 8-2 with a percentage of 147, and we've also got the ladder draw in there as well. So we've got Aquinas with 8 wins and a massive percentage of 241, just trailing by 1 game there. Mazenod with a huge percentage of 202 are on 32 points as well, sitting 3rd. And then Old Zavs round out the 4 with 7-4 and a percentage of 145. Then Canterbury, we've got 6-6 and a percentage 103. The Muggers with 6-6 as well, percentage of 74. So that's nearly like another game there, that one. Yep. And then Albert Park with 4 wins, just in front of Brunswick with 4 wins by about, what have we got, about 12, 13 percentage points. And then Fitzroy with 4 wins, and then North Brunswick with 4 wins. So percentage there playing a big part in the bottom of the ladder.
Division 5 women's, the top 7 teams, all still very much in the finals mix, and we had some tight results over the weekend, some really important ones as well. Monash Blues, who sat second last, defeated St Kevin's, who sat second. 3-1-19 to 2-2-14. Monash by 5 points. Huge win for the Blues over St Kevin's. And St Kevin's now lost top spot. They've dropped behind Preston Bull Ants because Preston Bull Ants 7-13-55 defeated Glenara Old McKinnon 3-1-19. The Bull Ants by 36 points. Big win for West Brunswick, 7-6-48 over South Melbourne, 1 behind, 47-point win there. Also a huge win for Elstonwick. Great weekend for the Wicks. Here you go.
Yes, coming together down there.
17-11, 113 defeated D-La. Oh, this was the Hugo Higginbotham Cup.
Yes.
And it goes to Elstonwick, 113 to 1 straight 6. 107-point win to the Wicks.
Olivia Powell, who's the coach of the women's team there, has done a fantastic job. She's really brought the group together, and I think she got a VAFA award this week for a coach.
Yeah, so congratulations. Well done.
Does a really good job there.
And Ormond, 8-6-54, defeated Parkside 3-5-23. So we take a look at that ladder, and it's Preston on 36 points now, half a game ahead of St Kevin's on 34. Another half game to Elstonwick on 32. And then 2 teams on 24. Ormond in 4th, West Brunswick in 5th. Half a game back to Parkside in 6th. Another half a game back to South Melbourne in 7th. So South Melbourne sits 7th, but they're only 1 game out of the 4, albeit a massive percentage gap of 156. So they're basically 2 games out, and then you've got Glen Ira, Monash, and De La Salle. That is the women's competition for this week. After the break, let's talk kids under 19. Senchi will join us. Lockie Moore will join us. We'll talk Holmesglen under 19 Premier next on For the Love of the Game. Looking for VAFA updates on the go? Download the brand new VAFA app today. Get live scores, fixtures, ladders, and all the latest VAFA news right at your fingertips. Whether you're a player, supporter, or just love local footy, the VAFA app keeps you in the game. Search VAFA in your app store and download it now. This is For the Love of the Game. Time to talk Holmesglen under 19 Premier, which has been an incredible competition all season long, week after week. Just ridiculous results and impossible to predict. And we've got some more of those over the weekend. Joining us, DYLAN Humphries, Cench Footy.
It's good to be here. Unfortunately, the streak ended on the weekend.
I thought you might come in wearing all black, actually.
Yeah.
In mourning. Old Scotch got done. Also joining us, as always, our under 19 Premier reporter, Lockie Moir. Lockie, the man who might have just tipped 5 out of 5 on the weekend.
Yeah, I was due. I'm very happy with myself, and hopefully I can really make a late run here. But happy to tip the card.
Where would you like to start? Holmesglen under 19 Premier over the weekend.
Yeah, well, we may as well start with the Old Zavs Old Scotch game, where Old Scotch's streak, unfortunately for Senchi, did come to an end on the weekend there. But fortunately for me, as I did side with Old Zavs, and they got it done in a great contest, 8-point win at home there. Probably the biggest result of the round in my eyes. They end the winning streak. Huge result, sort of for the top 4 race. They propel themselves now up to second in a big win for them. Their transition game on the day was just a lead, and they just killed Old Scotch with their inside 50 entries and how efficient they were. So great win for Old Zavs. Old Scotch, obviously, the streak comes to an end, but they're still flying. So interesting to see where these two teams end up.
They've lost to Zavs twice now this season by 8 points and by 7 points. So,
and there's every chance these two might meet come September.
I reckon they will.
Yeah, fantastic to watch. Great win for Old Brighton, the top team. 13-15-93 defeated St Bede's Mentone Tigers 9-11-65 by 28 points at Mentone Reserve.
Yeah, speaking of Old Brighton coach Trav O'Donoghue, he was pretty keen to get this one over the line for the boys as they got beaten by St Bede's Mentone earlier on in the year. So they were confident to try and right the wrongs of that game. They controlled territory early, didn't convert, but they still knew if they just kept chipping away that they'd eventually correlate that into scoring, and really mature second half response from them. They closed out the game really well. For St Bede's, they were competitive for sort of 3 quarters, just couldn't capitalise on any of their really good looks inside 50. And unfortunately for them, Old Brighton just came out on top through their running game. So shout out to Angus Shepherdson through the midfield. He was superb, but yeah, Old Brighton just really starting to hum.
Uni Blues won 5 out of their last 6 now. They've really turned their season around. 15-13-103 defeated Caulfield, 9-10-64 by 39 points.
Yeah, that's right. And they've got quite a big team, Uni Blues, and I think their bigger bodies really suited the smaller ground. Ted Bain was superb. He kicked 4 moving forward. Archie Philpott was impressive in defence. And Jones Gorton, really good option up forward, seemed to be a really commanding presence up there. So probably for Caulfield, it's just the story of their last few weeks. Around 30 unavailable players for them over the past month.
Yeah, wow.
They haven't had a reserves game since the 30th of May. So, look, 2 15-year-olds playing for them, 10 players doubled up and played 2 games. So it's just a hard spot for them at the moment, but they're really fighting along.
And that context is important too, because you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. You just see the scores and think, a team might be in a slump or struggling. But, I mean, the reality is you can only play who you can play.
15-year-olds and players having to back up and play double headers, that's pretty rough.
Senchi's almost looking like an under-19s. He's had a shave today. I reckon you might be able to qualify to get out there for a game.
They had a 16-year-old in the senior team too, didn't they?
Yeah. So they're certainly blooding the kids out at Caulfield because, again, from the sounds of it, they've got no option.
Yeah. Lockie, Jerry Green Reserve is where I want to go to next, and Kevin's and Parkdale, 2 teams at different ends of the ladder. And Kevin's getting the job done, but didn't have it all their own way in this one.
No, they definitely didn't. It was tough for them coming into it, speaking to Coach Paul Greenham. They were a bit undermanned, away from home, under the lights against a pretty good outfit. They took momentum going into that second quarter, and their defence really was outstanding all night, probably won them the game. Kobe Donovan and Gary Monahan were the standouts for me. Parkdale probably could have won this game. They just missed a few chances in that first quarter. Their young players continue to get better, but important win for Scob after some close losses, and yeah, they're now sort of cementing themselves in the finals.
Did we see Mark of the Year in this game, Senchi?
We saw it twice, actually. St. Kevin's down the other end and Kobe Donovan for
Is that the best mark you've seen in the VAFA this year? It was a huge. If you haven't seen it, log in to Senchi's socials. Massive hanger in the goal square.
I reckon the St. Kevin's one was
better.
Yeah, no, I'm taking the fifth.
That's hard. Gotcha. I understand. That Kobe Donovan grab was unbelievable.
No, I'm watching it back, and one of our commentators, Ellie Curler, said that was mark of the, and it got
cut off.
I want to know. I want to know mark of the what, mark of the week, year, decade,
century.
We got to figure this out. We've got to get to the bottom.
She said mark of the day.
Mark of the day. Okay, well, she's probably right.
It was a great grab. Final game of the weekend,
yes.
Hugo?
Lockie, so a big result there at Moorabbin West for DYLAN, 18-24-132, defeating Bo Morris 9-3-57. So a 75-point win there.
Yeah, big emphatic win, complete four-quarter performance for DYLAN. Their pressure around the ball was very good. They seemed to hunt numbers, and it was just a great sort of team effort. They sort of broke the game open after half-time. They could have definitely won by even more, which was scary, but they had some wasteful sort of finishing going forward. For Bo Morris, they were good maybe up until halftime. They were in the contest, just unfortunately couldn't sustain that effort throughout. But DYLAN's transition from defence to forward and being able to score was definitely the difference in this game. They were just really hunting and running, and it was just really great to see for them. So, really big win for them, and they're looking dangerous.
Really critical wins, in fact, for DYLAN and for University Blues, as we have a look at the ladder in just a moment, because it's kept them alive.
I'm just looking through the best players, and I've spotted Lincoln Higginbotham, however you say your last name.
Yeah, close enough.
Now I know why you just only ever call him Hugo.
Yeah, no, he did well down there, the young fellow. He's only 17, but he's a big boy, and he plays in the defence. So good to get in the best when you have a 75-point win. But one big thing with DYLAN is the majority Year 12 students, and in the previous term, they were playing school footy as well. So they were basically training Monday morning, Tuesday night, playing Wednesday, training Thursday night, playing Saturday. So the little bit of that form slump they had, they were really tired, those boys.
Yeah,
and
understandable.
So they've got about 6 or 7 to come back in as well. So.
Let's check the ladder, and it is Old Brighton out in front by a game. It's a very tight ladder, as it has been all year. Old Brighton on 36, one game clear of Old Xavs on 32, and then one game to the next 4 teams. So 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th all locked together on 28 points. St Kevin's, Old Scotch, St Bede's Mentone Tigers and DYLAN Cell. Game and a half back to University Blues on 22, then Parkdale 16, Caulfield 14, Bo Morris 8. So essentially right now, at least 6, possibly 7 teams still in the race for the finals.
Yeah, I think we need to do a premiership pie or something and give our seedings here.
Power rankings next week, you and Lockie?
Let's do that next week.
So over the weekend, Lockie, it just so happened, I'm sure you were unaware of this, you happened to pick 5 out of 5. Since you picked 3 out of 5, so you've started to close the gap.
What's the gap now?
It's down to 6.
Yeah, I'll be all right.
I'll be all right, he says. Just dismiss him as you like. 40-34 in favour of Cench. But Senchi, you're still in front, so you have the honour. We're going to kick it off with our KTV, our Community TV, Holmesglen Under 19 Premier Match of the round. It's 11:35 Saturday at Waverley Oval. DYLAN Cell sitting in 6th position against Caulfield in 9th. Who do you like, Senchi?
The home side for me.
Go for DYLAN. What about you, Lockie?
Yeah, DYLAN for me as well.
Old Brighton sitting top of the table against Parkdale, who sit 8th, 2 p.m, Brighton Beach Oval.
Well, I'm just going to play some defence and tip Old Brighton.
Lockie?
Yeah, can't go past Old Brighton at home.
St Bede's Mentone Tigers sitting in 5th against the bottom of the ladder, Bowie in 10th, 2 p.m, Mentone Reserve.
Yeah, can't go past St Bede's here.
Yeah, St Bede's as well for me.
This is the game of the round for mine. It is St Kevin's sitting in 3rd, Old Scotch sitting in 4th, 2 p.m, TH King.
Scotch.
Well, we'll make it interesting. I'll go St Kevin's, so hopefully I can repeat last week and get one over him there.
And then a critical game for Uni Blues. We talked about how they're on the outside looking in. They've got to find a way past Old Xavs. Blues sit 7th, Xavs sit 2nd, 2 p.m. at Crawford.
They'll win, Uni Blues.
Blues will win with the upset. Lockie?
Can't jump off Old Xavs now, so I'll stick with Old Xavs.
So an opportunity for you to either grab a couple or slip a further couple behind. But you're the informed man, Lockie. Thanks for your time as always, mate. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, boys. See you soon.
Footy finals are almost here, and there's no better way to kick them off than at the 2026 William Buck VAFA Finals Luncheon. Join MC Nat Edwards, AFL legends and Brownlow medalists James Heard and Jimmy Bartel, plus Jason Bennett and the VAFA media team for a live For the Love of the Game finals preview. Friday, September 4th at the RACV City Club. Enjoy a premium 2-course lunch, beverage package and an unforgettable afternoon of football stories and finals insights. Book your tickets now at vafa.com.au. Don't miss out on one of the biggest events on the VAFA calendar.
This is For the Love of the Game. It is time for Cench Watch. What's been happening, our socials guru, DYLAN CENCH FOOTY HUMPHRIES?
I've come prepared today.
Good. That makes a nice change from last week.
Yeah. So West Brunswick legend, you could say, Billy Irving played his
Absolute legend.
Played his 250th. He kicked 6 goals in their win over Powerhouse.
Fantastic.
Of course, he's come from Port VFL, and I think he played some footy for Old Melbournians. So, yeah, good to see. Bridget Roberts became the club's first women's player for Canterbury to reach the ton.
Yep.
She played her 100th game.
And we are at that sort of stage now in women's footy. It's been going around for about almost a decade en masse with AFLW sort of driving those extra numbers. So, you know, Hugo, playing 100 games of women's footy is the equivalent of playing at least 200 in the men's.
Yeah, it's a massive achievement, and it's great for the club too to see that they've got that continuation of players coming through, and she'd be fantastic around the other players and new ones coming through, having been in the system for so long. So it's a really good story.
Yeah, well done, Bridget. Congratulations. Great result.
And yeah, the rest of this segment is pretty much just talking about young players on the rise and clubs blooding players. So the Baby Bloods, Old Haileybury had 6 players from their under-19s team on the weekend playing up in the senior team. Of course, they got the win. Scotch had their 17th debutant, which you might have touched on earlier. Will Verge, Will Verge had 10-2 on debut, 80 ranking points. Scott blooded a couple of debutants, Archie Dolman out of Saints VFL as well, 26-1 on debut, and James Michael had 13 touches. And then on the other, their opponent, Caulfield, had 16-year-old debutant who we touched on just before, Eamon Walker, who dropped 19 touches.
Pretty good. 16 years old, 19 touches on debut to slotting into senior footy.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's a bit of a baptism of fire. They're coming up against St Kevin's too. They played a game of footy there.
Yeah, definitely.
And just finally, Collegians had 7 Wesley College schoolboys on the weekend and in their under-19s team, and I think they won by like 130 points. So
yeah,
future's bright there.
It is, and it's so important, Hugo. And we're seeing schools do this better and better, just integrating their under-19s in their schools program, because it is the logical feeder and it's the future of your footy club, and it's a huge advantage if you've got a school behind you, but only if you have a great working relationship with that school.
Yeah, I've seen that firsthand with DLSL. They've got Andy Otten, who's
he's coaching both, isn't he?
Yeah,
which is smart.
Yeah, which and just the transition there is perfect. It was started by Bill Tyson a few years ago. There was a disconnect there, so they saw the numbers dwindle, and Bill was really big on that. So we had the Irishman Walshie coach the school
Nick Walsh.
team.
I see he's now moved to Canada for a new job. Yep.
Yeah, he's all over the place. And he coached the school team and the club team, and that's where that transition started. And now it's just a fait accompli. Everyone who plays school footy there generally goes to the D-Line. So that'll be a big part of their resurgence, getting back up into A, building that. It is a pretty good 19s group they've got coming through at the moment. So once they filter up, it'll be the next coming of D-Lar, one would think.
Yeah, Matty, and that's a challenge for teams that are in C and B grade, but even the B grade teams who don't have either any under-19s or a very strong under-19s program, and I think of a team like Old Geelong, for example, you're fighting with one hand behind your back, aren't you?
Yeah, no, you are. And it just, if you can have a good sort of depth of under-19 players and sort of be blooding through that next generation, it's a sustainable way of setting your team up long-term, not just in the short and immediate term of making your team competitive, but if you've got a good under-19 program, it means your future is bright. And it's all about, you've got to keep one eye on the present. That's obviously very important, but you've always also got to be looking forward to the future in the long term.
Unbeaten. We saw Fitzroy dropped a game, their first game of the year. So what's our number down? Anyone else? Any of the other unbeaten teams?
I believe the rest got through. So we're probably down to 10 or 9. So.
10. We need a definitive number from you next week, so we can really start putting them down. In fact, let's see them on the socials. We'll go do another. We'll do another update for you on socials this week of who the unbeaten teams are.
I thought you said you came prepared this week.
Well, I did, but I've only got so much time. Just an update on the Premier Data Brownlow that we did a few weeks back for William Buck Premier Men's.
These guys are talking about Billy Coates potentially being a Woodrow medalist this year. Is he in your mix?
Yes. So if Premier Data was doing the Brownlow, he would be out in front on 25 votes.
There you go.
Yep.
6 clear of the next. It's a demolition job, pretty much.
Who is second instant?
Will Clark.
Yeah, and his third?
Another ruckman.
I'm seeing it.
So
Yeah, we've talked about this before. The hit outs artificially skew towards the ruckman.
I'd be curious.
Unlike the medals.
No, I'd be
Harry Hill is in fourth on 12 votes, so he's 13 behind Coates.
I'd be curious if
Where's
we
Campbell Lane? Is he?
He's probably on 8 votes.
Yeah, okay.
be curious what it looked like if we put on a rider and only counted hit outs to advantage.
Yep.
How much that would change things.
I believe in footy, that's the way it should be. I think hit-outs, I don't know if you agree, Hugo, hit-outs are the most irrelevant stat in all of football because it doesn't matter who wins the hit-out. It's who gets the hit-out to advantage and who wins the clearance. Who cares who wins the hit-out? It's irrelevant.
Yeah, exactly. If you're tapping it to the opposition every time, well, you're giving the ball away. So I 100% agree with that. And you know, why have we even got hit-outs in there? It just shouldn't be part of it.
Come on, Cenchy.
Ruckman shouldn't kick the ball. We don't want to know if they've tapped it. So.
Let's talk big bags. Thanks to Sharon. And we had a big bag of 12. We had a dozen
12
this week. Hayden Boyce from Mazenod kicked 12, and that's also rocketed him right up into the ton watch mix as well. He's moved up to 52 goals. More on that in a moment, but 12 for Hayden Boyce in the Mazenod seniors. We also had a 10. Hamish McMillan from St Mary's Salesian in the seniors. He's now up to 36 for the year. We had a 9, and we had a 9 in the women's, which I think might be the highest amount of goals kicked in a single women's game this year.
Yep.
It was Jocelyn Hurley from Elstonwick in that big win they had. It was actually her first game of the year. She's come in and kicked 9.
Yeah, she's a superstar, Joss. She's been around the club
For a long time.
But,
So has she been travelling or been injured or something? Do you know?
Yeah,
we'll have to find out. She's come in and kicked 9 straight. Pretty good first up.
Not bad. Yeah,
not a
good
bad
start.
selection. Maybe they're just holding her off till her form was right.
Oh, yeah, well, their form's certainly right now. She's kicked 9 on the weekend, and we had 4 players kick 8. Antonio Barber at St Bede's Mentone Reserves. Tom Austerton, also St Bede's Mentone Reserves. They must have had a decent win. We should probably look that up. Clinton Young, the former Hawk at Hampton Rovers, he was playing in the Resis. No surprise, he kicked 8. And Lucas Hutchinson from Hawthorn Resis kicked 8 as well. His first 8 goals of the year. It was his 7th game of the year, so I presume he swung forward and kicked 8.
Not a bad way to do it.
Yeah, not too bad. 4 players kicked 7 on the weekend. 12 players kicked 6 as well. So Tunwatch, we mentioned earlier, Mitch Brown from Parkdale didn't play, and he may not play for a few weeks now with that hamstring issue. So at the moment, he's sitting on 57 goals. The gap now is just 2. Because Rogan Kitts from Oakley Seniors kicked 7 on the weekend. He's up to 55. Luca DeLello, who did so well for the Big V a couple of weeks ago from MHSOB, he kicked a couple. He's also on 55. So you got Brown on 57, Kitts and DeLello on 55. 1 back to Patrick Carricker from Therry Panola. He kicked 5. He's on 54. And here's Hayden Boyce coming with a run. He kicked 12 on the weekend. He's now on 52. Tommy Garrell from Old Geelong on 49, kicked 2 on the weekend. James Stewart kicked a couple for Uni Blues. He's on 46. Will Clark goalless this weekend. Jai Pugsley and Mahi Patel also in the mix as well. But it's Mitch Brown on 57, ahead of Rogan Kitts on 55, Luca DeLello 55, Patrick Carricker 54, and Hayden Boyce 52. So we've got 5 players at the moment over the half century. In the women's competition, Geordie Mifsud kicked another 5 goals. So she's booted 6 clear. She's on 33 now. 6 goals clear of Georgia Harris from Port Melbourne Chargers, who kicked 2 on the weekend. Isabella Gietzman on 26 from Ormond. She kicked 1. 1 also from Mia Cowan on 25, and Asher Price didn't score. So Mifsud 33, Harris 27, Gietzman and Cowan 26 and 25 respectively. It's tips time. How do you think you did on the weekend, Matty?
I think I said at the top, I think I went okay.
You actually did better than Braden.
Oh,
You
well,
turned it around.
Well,
and
now,
now Braden doesn't turn up.
Now we know. Now we know why he's ill.
Yeah, 10 to you, 9 to Braden. So it was only 1, but you've reduced the gap to 12. 118 to Braden.
The comeback's on. He's getting worried now.
106 to Matty. I've got Braden's tips, so we'll start with Premier Women's. Braden, Old Brighton and Caulfield. This is Old Brighton in 4th, Caulfield top of the table. Good game this one. 9:20 Brighton Beach Oval. Braden's going with the Fields.
Yes, as am I, Caulfield.
Old Geelong sit 8th, Westbourne sit 9th. So this is a huge game at the other end of the ladder 10:30 at Como Park. Braden's got the Ogs.
Yeah, I've gone with Old Geelong on this one too.
Coming in on good form, having beaten Fitzroy last week. St Kevin's in 7th. Massive game for them. They've got to make a run. Scob late in the season. The Saints, they're 7th. West Brunswick are 3rd. Can they take a scalp? 2 p.m. at Rigetti. Braden's going with the Maggies.
I've gone with West Brunswick too.
And the final game of the weekend in Premier Women's is a huge one. It's 5th versus 6th. 2 teams on the outside looking in. It's Q hosting Fitzroy, 2 p.m. at Vic Park, and Braden's gone for Q.
Gone the Royals to Vic Fitzroy.
So there you go. Fitzroy to bounce back. Old Scotch have the bye. Let's talk Premier B men's. We'll bring in Cench and Hugo as well. Old Camberwell sit 5th. Old Carey sit 7th. This is a huge, huge game. One of them's going to take a step forward. The other one's going to take a step backward towards the relegation race. Braden's gone Old Carey. Where are you?
I've gone Old Camberwell.
Camberwell for Matty.
And I think Carey for me.
Carey for Hugo. Senchi?
Yeah, I'll go against Matty as well.
Wise.
So 3 for Carey and 1 for Camberwell. Sorry, Camberwell. Neil Connell's just gone. Oh! 3rd versus 9th, this next game. DYLAN taking on Old Ivanhoe. Braden going with DYLAN.
Yeah, I've gone with DYLAN for this one too. Do I have any?
Yeah, I agree with you there, Matty. DYLAN.
Yeah, Old Ivanhoe for me.
You really are just going whatever Matty tips, I'll go the opposite. Willie CYMS sitting on the bottom of the ladder. Ajax sitting 2nd. Braden's gone the Jackers to bounce back.
I'm going Williamstown.
Wow.
Yep.
This would be one of the upsets of the year.
I'm going Williamstown. The only thing that I just feel like they've got more to play for. There's more on the line for Williamstown in this match, and if
the Jackers are down a few players too, aren't they?
They do have a few out. They'll be getting some of them back soon, but I don't think in time for this game, which will help Kontatoglu and his men. There's just too much on the line for CYs. They've got to start climbing the ladder, and they've got to start doing it now. So I'm backing them.
Hugo?
I think I'll go with Ajax though.
Jackers for Hugo and Senchi?
Yeah, Ajax.
Ajax.
What's he going to do if I tip Old Scotch? Essentially today. He
His
can't tip with me. He can't tip against Scotch.
Bo Morris versus Old Collegians. Bowie sitting in 6. Braden going with the Lions.
Yeah, it's hard to tip Collegians, or it's hard to tip against Collegians at this point. No, I'll go Collegians.
Yeah, it's got to be Collegians.
Yeah, Collegians.
He says through gritted teeth. Big game this one as well. We talked about it a little bit earlier in the show. Old Geelong sitting in 8th, but still very much in touch of the top 4. OMs are 4th at the moment. It's a great opportunity for Old Geelong to pick up another game. Old Geelong versus OMs. Braden has gone for the Ogs.
I'm going the OMs.
I'll agree with you there, Matty. I think OMs get the job done.
Yeah, I'll stick with these two.
Let's talk William Buck Premier Men's round 13 action. 6th versus 7th. This is our SEN match of the day. 1:45 on the SEN app and on vafa.com.au. What a huge game this is. Caulfield 6th. Uni Blacks sit 7th. Braden's gone for Caulfield.
Some really tough games to pick in Premier Men's this weekend. I've gone Old Caulfield too, though.
I'm going to go Blacks in this one.
Blacks for
They
Hugo.
get the job done.
Yeah, Uni Blacks as well.
So that's a 2-2 split on Caulfield and the Blacks. 3rd versus 5th. Just as big a game. St Kevin's sit 3rd. Old Scotch sits 5th, and we talked about what Scotch have got in front of them. Their finals campaign is already underway. You'll see this game live and free, 1:55 on VAFA TV. And Braden has gone for the Cardinals.
I'm tipping Old Scotch too. I think purely because this one's being played on home turf for the Cardinals. I think if it was at TH King, I'd be going St Kevin's, but I'm going to go the Cardinals here.
I'm going to go St Kevin's in this one. I don't think the ground will have any effect on them, and I think they'll be too strong on the day.
I think I'm going St Kevin's as well.
So St Kevin's.
Hang on a minute. Stop the presses here, JP.
Wow.
Sanchez tipped against Old Scotch.
This is reverse psychology, this is.
So that's a 2-2. You went for the Cardinals,
Yep.
and you two have both gone for St Kevin's. St Bernard's versus Old Zabs, top versus bottom. You'll see this one 1:55, VAFA TV as well, live and free from the Snake Pit. Can be a banana peel game. Old Zabs coming off a loss. Braden picks them to bounce back.
Yeah, I'm gonna back them to do the same, set things straight, and get a win here.
Yeah, I think they'll bounce back, and they'll bounce back hard this week.
Yep, Zabs.
Zabs across the board. Uni Blues sit 2nd. Old Haileybury sit 8th. This game 1:55 live and exclusive to Community TV. You can see this game. The Blues versus Haileybury at Melbourne Uni. Braden's going for the Blues.
Yeah, I've got to tip the Blues as well. They're flying high at the moment.
Definitely the Blues for me.
Yep, agree.
Blues across the board for this one. And the final game of the weekend, Old Trinity sit in 9th. Old Brighton sit 4th. Braden's going for the Tunners to bounce back.
I'm going to tip the Tees.
Okay, the upset out of Daily Oval.
Tipping the upset here. I think Old Brighton still will have a few light coming into this match, and Old Trinity, they nearly got the win.
Yeah,
last
they'd be
week.
feeling much better about themselves, wouldn't they? I know they're on a
Yeah.
7-game losing streak, but that was the best performance they've put in for quite a while.
And they've slowly got a few coming back as well. We know they've been without a few for a while, and at home, Old Trinity for me.
Ooh, wouldn't that make it interesting? Imagine if the Tees get up over Brighton and Scotch win over St Kevin's, and that gap between 4th and 5th shrinks even more.
Yeah, look, it's going to be a very tight game this one, but I'm going to go with Brighton purely because I need a new oven and I want to buy it off Marcel Bruin. And I want a really good price. So Marcel, look after me on that oven, please.
Yeah. Great. Thanks, Hugo. That's really good.
Old Trinity for me as well.
Hugo for the love of the game and homewares.
Yes, correct.
Old Trinity, did you say?
Yeah.
Sorry, that almost slipped through. So a 2-2 there on Trinity and Brighton. Interesting. It's going to be a fantastic weekend of footy. That is it for us for the love of the game this week. So much to talk about, so much to look forward to over the weekend. We'll be back to dissect it all next week for the love of the game.